Three meta-narratives, video one. And it really could be three meta-narratives and the unified field theory of personal meaning and appropriate action in a time of collective crisis. And this will be like at least the 13th iteration since July of 2022, addressing this time on our planet. That is, and we're very near the solstice of 2024, waiting for Donald Trump to take office, and all kinds of changes are happening in between. A collective panic on the left, a collective gloating on the right, which is kind of like glossing over a bunch of lessons we thought we've already learned, but now have to maybe reiterate. Three meta-narratives. We're looking for a storyline that'll get us through, that'll bring meaning to all of this. I've been working on visions from the 70s, 73 through 75. I had a series of visions. People have transcendent visions often from near-death experiences or something, crises. I had a different approach in my senior year at Phillips Andover in 73, oldest prep school in the nation, by the way, and I was pretty much tops of my class, top percentage, whatever, first. And my senior year, I had a lot of time to, from advanced placement, to meditate on the meaning of reality, and also the nature of our, by the 70s, it was already clear, Club of Rome had already stepped out with their report that in 50 years, which is now, things were really going to be in crisis mode. Nobody even really foresaw climate change that well back then, but there were so many other parameters that were clearly going to be going, exponential. We had exponential factors, and we're right about in that time zone right now. Does that mean it's a period of crises that we've been staring at basically almost this whole 21st century? So, a lot of preamble to get to what should we be doing? And besides electing somebody and watching the strange news, and maybe some of us are being survivalists and preparing, we have a society that is still totally globally interactive and communicating, and we have an opportunity to maybe come to common ground and get to some serious transition strategies, because from every parameter and objective measurements, we're kind of like a little bit, it looks like it's going to be out of control somehow. And the visible options depend on your meta-narrative. And so let's go over these. By the way, there is a unified field theory of these meta-narratives that I've been trying to share. And it combines metaphysical perspectives with political perspectives, with personal perspectives. That brings it down to crucial action and enlightened, compassionate, appropriate response. But it's a unified field. I got a little lost on that one. Should we just get into this, eh? There's visions behind this. But yeah, the point is that it comes down to constructive action, which ends up being economic for the moment, because it's where a lot of these meta-narratives, just the meta-narrative of your own personal life with respect, and then the material plane, and then what society is imposing. There's a lot of three-sided narratives. There's three big ones that need to be described and acknowledged, working their way to some kind of resolution. And they look like they conflict. But if we're also accepting the conclusion of both physics and metaphysics, that it's a unified field, then somehow they come together. So you could call it the paradox of three, And indeed, I had one of my visions in 73 was that the cornerstone of the material plane is a three-sided paradox. And now this is going to just be left as an introduction because it's gotten a little wild. They all come together, but it's not obvious. And for the moment, they seem to conflict. And what are we talking about? Let's just get down to it. The materialist perspective, where everything we're looking at the material plane, what is visible to all of us, and what can be experimentally verified. There's a second perspective, and the materialist perspective is beginning to. Okay, the second perspective is an acceptance of that the let's say you can take it from the Hermetic principles or any of the metaphysical schools, that the foundation of reality is mind. I would like to call it presence in front of mind. Mind is what presence becomes in my looking at it. Mind is the focusing of presence. But in any case, it's the spiritual side, the spiritual perspective. Those seem to be, is that enough for everybody? Two that seem to clash. The material scientific perspective is starting to glimpse the possibility that there's a unifying, that those two sides can be unified. And there's a very interesting new development in terms of advanced physics. Actually, it's mathematics. That there are equations which predict the 19 parameters. This goes beyond string theory. It goes to a thing where it says if you take abstract interactions of integrity, of points of integrity, how that interacts in an abstract way, there's equations that you could derive from that predict the material plane. That's a curious thing, and then I'm not obviously in that field, and there's only a few of these that have come out. It's the latest development on math that actually seems to imply spirit. Curiously, okay, but still, let's work with the practical meta narratives working their way through the planet, and all of our politics and economics is based on the material plane, and that's what we all have to deal with every single day. That's the materialist meta-narrative. And then there's what we think of as the second major meta-narrative, which is our own subjective understanding of what our own personal life means, but that connects to the spiritual meta-narrative, that connects to the idea that the whole thing is founded on spirit. What's the third meta-narrative, Mike? The third meta-narrative is the I'm going to call it the Jehovite evangelical, but all the single God theist meta-narratives that say not only is it a foundation of presence and mind that goes through the evolution that the materialists have observed, but also there's a personality with masculine intentionality that's working its way through the actual reality of what we're all collectively experiencing. And that one clashes with both of the other ones. It clashes with it clashes even with the one of spirit. And they try to, there's a confusion, and I'm calling this out because people try to blur it over, between God as defined by Jehovah, an actual personality that's above the material plane and has some kind of a intentionality with respect to the material plane and influence on it. Let's just leave it right there for that. As far as what he can do, beyond other claims evangelicals have about him, that clashes with the Buddhist perspective, and Buddhist is generic for the one mind, belief in foundation, energy of presence, which is subjective, that part. It clashes with that, and it clashes even more with the materialist side. Because, we're going to leave the material side as separate from, because the material as a meta context has to be honored in our economics and in our politics and in our science. But in terms of what that means, that's where it gets, if you